Best jigsaw puzzle ever. There it is, got home nicely, it rides really well. A little bit of an exhaust blow from the headers, I think. Basically good power, good gearbox, good clutch, good brakes. Suspension seems alright. There's possibly a weep from the fork seals. It seemed to be a little bit, well, it feels good now. I've just been riding it, but maybe there's a little bit of a weep on that one. It's just really untidy, this surface rust on the frame that needs cleaning up. Nothing structural, just annoying. Little ding on the tank, needs sorting. Plastic cracks all over. Panel cracks, doesn't fit properly. Crack there. It's tatty as f***, but it rides really nice. It's one thing I don't like, and that's this. It's stupidly loud. But all in all, for 620 quid, it's pretty good. Right, starting to strip down. Look at the state of all of this. So all the plastics are off. Most of the tabs are intact. He lied. Gonna have to do something with the exhaust manifold, which is blowing, so I'm gonna have a real nightmare getting all these studs out. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. It's got a manual conversion for the cam chain tensioner, which is excellent because they're a known issue. The exhaust headers though are pretty shocking. I'm not sure what's going on here. I mean, that is a major bodge. Back end's alright though. Patchy surface rust everywhere. Just little bits of it all over, which is why I'm taking it apart. We'll get rid of all of that, make it look sweet again. Obviously got a few things to get off. The rear spindle, I had a quick go out, it's a bit stiff, so I need to have another go at that. Get the rear wheel out and get the chain off, disconnected. And then there's obviously clutch linkages and ignition leads and all sorts of stuff to disconnect off the engine before I drop it. 6 studs in these, and there's 2. One that someone's had a go at. What I'm going to do with that is weld this nut on. Hope get it red hot, quench it with WD, and hopefully with a breaker bar I can just ease that out. And I'll try the same with that one. Got most of the loom out. Engine is completely disconnected. All the wiring from the back is out. Throttle linkages, clutch linkages, all that kind of stuff is gone. A couple of issues though. First is the spindle. That is really rusted in there, or corroded in there. I've managed to knock it forward, but still can't get the spindle to come out, so there'll be a bit more blunt force trauma on that, I think. Rear shock's in pretty good nick. Swing arm's going to need a little bit of attention as well. Engine is out, obviously. Just got that out at the end of the day, quite satisfied with that. Engine mounting bolts, incredibly tight. This front one here, that one actually came out okay, but it's going to need a new nut because I absolutely ruined the head, it was so tight. Second one didn't come out at all. A little bit more progress today. Shock absorber and swing arm are out, along with the rest of the pipe works, all the retaining little cable clips. So there's one more there, I've missed 2 more. So tomorrow it's just get the forks and the ignition switch out, centre stand, and start cleaning it up. Right, a little bit of an update then. Frame's nearly completely stripped. I bought a soda blaster to do this, which was a massive disappointment. Just kept clogging up. So, been using a paint stripper and wire brushes. I've got a couple of little bits to get into, here and here, a little bit down there, and then we'll get that onto the powder coaters. So there's only one piece of the bike that hasn't been stripped, and that's the swing arm, which also is going to the powder coaters, but having some trouble with the spindle. So I bought a new product, highly recommended. It's called Plus Gas. Apparently it's WD with a vengeance. Everything's a bit seized up, so we'll go to town. Alright, it's time to get brutal. Big Daddy club hammer. Amazing, it's coming out. Yes, there we go. That is a massive result. Oh, almost hand tight now. I think I'll get stuck at this end again though. No. Couple of little bits to take off the swing arm. This belt here. Little screw here for the hugger. Got the chain adjusters slid out already. All that's left to do is get this disgusting chain guard off, and it is disgusting. As a result, I'm going to change them though. Not very good heads. Look how thick that build up of grime is. Horrible. Not the best job for wearing bright yellow trainers. Green gunk. Seriously impressive product. That is amazing. This is the rear axle, by the way. So the wheel sits more or less here to here. So I think the rear wheel bearings will be absolutely fine, although I haven't checked them yet. You can see where the water's getting in. It's this end that where it sort of goes through the hub bearing. So water's been getting in there. That'll clean up, no problem with the Scotch-Brite pad. I'll just stick it in the lathe. But might need a new hub bearing. Have a look at that when I strip the wheel. Got a couple of other bits from the swing arm, got the chain adjusters. I'll just clean them up, and that's the brake caliper hanger. So I got about a week now, maybe 10 days until my frame's back from the powder coater with the swing arm. Got some fork seals to fit and repair. And what else have we got to do? Obviously finish cleaning up that, degrease all those boxes of bits, clean the nuts and bolts up. Got 2 engine mounting bolts to source. Got an engine exhaust manifold stud to get out. I've got those little screws on the carburetor insulators, those little rubber bungs that the carburetor pushes into on the engine head. All the screw threads are stripped, and I kind of want to get that off to degrease the engine, and also just to have a look at the carb. You can see the right hand side of the carb looks a bit golden, so there's been a bit of a fuel leak there at some point. I need to have a look. A couple of little brackets to paint. The top fairing mounting bracket needs de-rusting, etch priming, all the rest of it. So good times, getting to the point where I'm starting to put stuff back together. So many little clean-up jobs to do. Haynes manual. I've got a better one than that actually. Bags of nuts and bolts, loads of plastics. These have all been washed with fairy liquid, warm water, and then degreased with gunk. All the engine pipes. A couple of boxes still to do. Handlebars. Just steering yokes, rear brake light, rear suspension, battery tray, fork steering stem head thing. HT leads, coil packs, couple of foot pegs. What else is in there? I can't even tell. Brake reservoirs and brake calipers. Remember them? So that's just 5 minutes of wire brushing. They're going to come up real nice. There's no holes in these at all. Problem is just where they go into the engine. They all need tidying up. I've done these two a bit. They're absolutely fine now. And new gaskets as well. They should be good. Obviously clean up the ports coming out of the engine. Clean up these mounting brackets. I don't know if that was an exhaust bracket he's had to cut out or something, but obviously couldn't weld. So what he's done is he's slapped a plate on and just wired it up with a coat hanger by the looks of it. Anyway, I can weld, so that's quite an easy fix. So these are going to be a nice little money saving usable item. There is literally nothing wrong with them, which is a nice result. And I bought a box for a tenner on eBay of just random bolts from an old scrapped CBR600F3. Really useful. I've already found a few that I was missing. I'm sure there'll be a few more. A couple of these little rubber grommets I want as well. Loads of these. Well worth a tenner. So these are the typical bit of cleanup I'm doing. These are old frame bolts. Very simple. Nice. I would not have clamped that if that was threaded all the way. It's just that's wider. If I'm using a bolt like that, I'll put a nut on it, just wind it right up and clamp the nut in. Anyway, I got a whole load of those to do. These are just frame bolts. Obviously I've got fairing bolts and engine mounting bolts, all sorts of other things to do as well. That's a very useful little job. So this is just a minor reassembly job. Quite a few other pieces like this to do. Loads of grease on the wiring loom and dirt on the engine. Every little bit. 25 years of road grind pretty much. Sure is nice to be putting this stuff back together. This chain adjuster, I haven't cleaned that up. There's no rust or anything inside there. This one quite a bit, and that does tally up with where the spindle was sticking. So try and clear that up a little bit. That is much better. I like that a lot. Rear brake caliper mounting bracket, 2 frame sliders, nuts, Swingarm mounting bracket, hugger mounting brackets with lock washers, and that disgusting thing came up like brand new. Apart from the little marks there, but hey, pretty good. Right, I've got to start doing a couple of little fixes on this engine. It's nothing major. Carburetor, signs of leakage there at some point. There's 4 stuck screws with no heads. One of them is right in there, I don't know if you can see that. It's basically ruined. Put some plus gas on the screw heads. I'll try and get them out, but there's not much left of them, so they're probably going to drill them out. Right, one more. That's a real tricky one in here. So that last one came off in the end, no problem. Slightly awkward getting a drill in there, but it's done. Bit of swarf to clean up, but it's not going to drop in anywhere critical. Right, these should be free to come off. I don't think there's any more nuts or bolts, but I think they're going to be well in those little rubber insulators, so it's going to be tough. Prise them off. Right, the carburetor's just popped off, which is nice. What I did was get a long bit of steel bar. I kind of rested it against the back of the cylinder head, prized it out. There's another place along here, just very gently eased it up. Eventually it popped out. Not a bad head on that, but I'm going to change them all anyway. These are the ones I've drilled out. That's where I've drilled the heads off. So I just need to find something with the same thread to go through these square nuts. And the carburetor itself, I mean, that needs cleaning up as well, let's be honest. And I do want to have a look at this potential fuel leak. It's definitely been leaking at some point there, but that does look quite old. So it doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem, but it's worth looking into. Right, let's get this bastard out. A few washers just to pack it out. Nut, threaded hole, socket. So that's now tightening up against here. That should draw the remains of the stud out. It's not a stud, but whatever it is. What may happen is I strip the head off this bolt. If that happens, I'll just take it out and try another one. And a bit more heat and a bit more plus gas. Wow. Okay. Still working on this bad boy. I've tapped this out to a bigger hole now. Let's see this shifting. Right, okay. Right, that's the engine mounting bolt. I didn't film all of that. It's now an even better fit than it was before. It's pretty good. Much less oily than it was, but I'm going to have to do that again to get the real hard caked residue off it. But it's a lot more pleasant to work on now, and I want to get this stud out. We'll do that one as well because I've got a full set of stainless ones to replace them. But that's quite a nice guide at the moment if I need to cut that off and drill in and retap it, so I'll leave that for the moment. First job's getting this one cleaned up. Right, so I've opened out the end of the nut slightly, just chamfered it, more chance for weld to get in there. Not that much of a stud to work with, but I should be able to get something on that. I think that might have moved. Yep, perfect, that is coming out. Beautiful. Unbelievably, I actually only got one of these 11mm nuts. So I've actually got to weld that last remaining nut on and do the same trick. As you can hear, that was quite stiff. Oh yeah, little bastard. Just want to really quickly clean all these threads out. Just going to run a tap up and down them real quick. Oh, there we go. Also got to get the remains of the gaskets out of 1, 2 exhaust ports. Number 1 here. So what I'm doing here is just very carefully. See, the gaskets are slightly proud in places. Should sort of distort, and then I can put more things to tap against. Right there. Is that going to break, or is it going to come out? Coming out. New engine's manifold studs, stainless steel. Just putting these hand tight for now. Nice, happy to get that job done. It's just a little bit more cleanup on the engine, using quite a stiff paintbrush. By far and away the best tool for getting into all these little nooks and crannies. Some of this is really ground in, but the majority of it will come off. Use a soft wire brush on a lot of this as well when it's all done. Right, that looks a whole lot better. Still a little bit to do actually, but it's almost there. Apparently it turns blue when it sees rust, so everything it's seeing right now is rust. Awesome. So you just brush this on, you leave it, it does its thing, and then you put the top coat on 3 hours later. Alright, that's done its thing overnight. Apparently you can apply top coat straight onto that. So for that, very high temperature paint, up to 500 degrees centigrade. It's got pictures of exhausts on it, so hopefully that'll do the job. I got all my bits back. That's the swing arm. Had some heavy surface rust in here and on the top. It's come out pretty well, you can see where it was, but it's all covered by a plastic hugger that shrouds the wheel, so I'm not too bothered about that. There was only one bit that was slightly disappointing, and that was where rust had dripped down over the years. Obviously I cleaned that up and the powder coat didn't really fill that in too well, so you can see it, but you know, it's a 25-year-old swing arm and this is a budget reconstruction. So this is pretty good, this slider, the other one not so good. It doesn't really matter about the pitting on the side, see that, like it's pretty bad. But at the end of the day, it's just about width, about a nice fit in there, and the swing arm going through it. That really, the only thing that is a water trap. Could happen again. Right, nothing's ever simple, is it? So, at some point, where this chain guard attaches, there's a little nut that's welded to the inside of the swing arm. During construction, there's no other way to get it in or out, it's all welded in now. That is obviously rusted and dropped off. It's actually inside the swing arm, there's nothing I can do about it, you can hear it rattling. That's what it is for now, but what it does mean is that I've got no way to screw it in, so I've got to tap these out. So I need the right tap for that. Hopefully I've got it. Right, I just got a very sharp chisel and very carefully, trying not to scratch the powder coat, got under that. That worked quite well. I think it will now come out. Doesn't solve the overall problem though. Right, we're done. So not too much of a mess with the powder coat. Now I've got to find two 10mm nuts to go through there and open out these holes to the same dimension, which is okay. Right, radial bearings to this side and then a snap ring. If you want to test the bearing, you can just run it in your finger. If you feel any resistance or any biting points, you could try cleaning up the bearing and re-greasing it, but these are pretty good. In fact, they're mint. So they're going back in. Writing on the upside. Try and get these level before you put any pressure on. Very gently. Touch high on that side. Still a touch. Pretty good. Give it a good whack. That's a nice. Okay, now I've got to use a socket and I've got to get it in another maybe 1/4 of an inch. So you're looking for exactly the right size socket. Almost perfect. Actually, I have a slightly better one than that. Don't really want to hit the socket. Hit the wood. Nearly there. There she is. You can feel when the bearing goes in, it's home. Just check that. That is smooth as butter. Beautiful. Got a little retaining clip. Goes in a little lip with these pliers. Little dust seal to go on here. Obviously if you had a bearing presser tool, that would be the way to do this. I don't have one, so I'm doing what I can with what I've got. Now, I can tell you those bearings are in good condition and they move very smoothly, so I've got no concern about them. Right, that's one side done. Right, it's the roller bearing now, and these little rollers inside it, that's got to go in, same procedure. Yeah, so I think I might end up putting some threaded rod through here and just winding it in. Internal diameter, yeah.
Tiny smooth.
Right, so you've just seen that part being made, it's now been fitted, all good. I want to get the chain guard on now. Right, that is the swing arm pivot spindle in, both radial bearings, needle bearing, the chain gun adjuster in. This is the rear wheel spindle, all nicely cleaned up, that's all good. Chain adjusters are in. Got to fix the hugger before I put it on, so I've just got to do the shock linkages here, which I'll do next. Right, a little bit of progress, got the shock absorber onto the swing arm, 45 Newton meters each one of these on the torque wrench. Rear brake caliper hanger bracket is there, rear spindles in, and the chain sliders. Now the fun really starts. Fabricated swing arm, put that together, torqued up to the right settings, headers looking good, and oh Yeah, look at that, real nice job. It's not factory silver, a bit flatter than that, but I'm pretty happy with that. Very good price and done very quickly. Managed to retain all of the headstock stamps and the numbers as well. Excellent.